Hi, I'm New World Now host Kim Corbin, and this is our third interview in our Coping with the COVID Crisis series, where I'm talking to New World Library authors about kind of tips and tools and wisdom that we can use to help us see our way through these very unusual times that we're living in. And my guest today is Suzanne Scurlock-Durana. She's the author of two New World Library books, Reclaiming Your Body, Healing from Trauma and Awakening to Your Body's Wisdom, and Full Body Presence, Learning to Listen to Your Body's Wisdom. And I feel like right now it's so easy to be caught up in our minds and not settled into our bodies that I knew that this was a conversation that I wanted to have. And Suzanne, I had a very specific thing that happened Saturday that made me think of you, which was in a Zoom meeting that I was in. A woman was talking about how she feels kind of numb and just numb was the way she described it. And then another woman on the call was a trauma therapist, and she was talking about how this is a collective trauma that we're all in, really, and how when we are in a place of trauma, our brains either go into fight, flight, or freeze mode. And I instantly thought of your work when she said that, and how that numbness is the freeze. And then I started thinking about how the people who are resisting and fighting against this are in fight, and how people who are numbing and running to substances and just trying to not deal and not really being fully present in their bodies are in flight. And so I just wanted to have you talk to us a little bit about what happens to the brain when we're in trauma, and how this really is a collective trauma that we're experiencing right now.
Yeah. Thanks, Kim. It's great to be here. And I think one of the pivotal pieces that goes on for human beings is that when you are in fight, flight, or freeze, either any of those three, what begins to happen is the amygdala, they're two little almond-shaped structures down right in the midbrain, overfire, and it literally cuts off the prefrontal cortex. And so people, and if you do brain PET scans, you can see that there's very little happening in that prefrontal cortex. Now, the prefrontal cortex is the area of the brain that actually strategizes and map makes and helps you think clearly about how to move on and be creative and get beyond whatever it is we're doing. So when you're in fight, flight, or freeze, that mechanism is offline, which is really problematic. So the capacity to stay, in a sense, online with your body and the wisdom of the body keeps the whole system working better, so that we can think more clearly, so that we can actually be creative, so we can create strategies and maps for where we want to go, what is the next best step to take, all of those things that go on. And yes, this is a collective trauma because so much of the culture is caught up in it, that it is something that the whole field right now is radiating anxiety, stress, what if, oh my God, that quality is in the air. Now, it's more or less depending on where you are located, but that's basically what goes on in the brain. And that's a very simplified version. Yeah. But what it basically does is it takes you or I off the hook. We stop thinking, oh, there's something wrong with me. Why can't I pull it together? Why do I feel numb? Why am I over drinking or eating or drugging or, binge watching, whatever? No, you've got to realize that you need to do the self-care strategies that will help you be able to get back online in your body, in your bones, in your heart, in your gut, in your feet and legs, so that those areas can feed information to the prefrontal cortex and enable you to actually stay awake and alive and creative and calm as you can be in a time like this.
And the reason that I really wanted to have this conversation is the first two interviews that I've had have been lovely. And we talked a lot about the bigger picture vision of how this is a time that the world can change and there's opportunity in the crisis. And that's all true. But if people can't pay they're not getting income and their rent's due and their bills are due, like I'm lucky enough to be working from home, but there's so many people that's not their experience right now. And so I really wanted to presence that it's not just that easy to just grab that. There's actually something that's going on in the brain that's preventing people from being able to sink into that and to realize the gift in this, which is
Yeah.
kind of that stillness.
Yeah. And I think, also I think that if you're in that fight, flight, freeze mode, if you've never learned how to really drop back and be present in your own system, the easiest thing in the world is to tune into the trauma trance of the culture and just move right along with it. And believe me, the media is feeding it every single day. We actually, here in my household, we don't watch the television at all. We read the newspaper, some. We go online to read the New York Times or the Washington Post. We might get other information from different articles, thoughtful articles that people have written. But by and large, we limit the amount of incoming, the trauma dance that's going on out there so that we can stay clear and keep creating what we came here to do, which is to help people to be able to move beyond it and to reach out to other people. I think I said to you, what we're doing right now, Carol and I, is we are actually filming courses so that therapists, hands-on therapists, can learn to do work across the miles, long distance, so they can still reach out to their clients, to their loved ones, to their elders in the nursing homes, and do the beautiful caregiving service work that we are trained to do from a distance. Now, see, there's nothing more inspiring to me than having something like this to do. So my fight, flight, freeze isn't anywhere close to being on because I'm in an inspired state as opposed to a wired state, if you will.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Which is what most of our authors and and I feel like so many people who have the strategies and tools in their toolbox have used them. But if people didn't have them going into this, it's got to
yeah,
be such a scary time. And
yeah.
actually, when you were talking about the news, that's a nice segue. One of in addition to the training programs you just mentioned, Suzanne's also doing calming strategies for the COVID crisis on her website. She's got a great image there for us to see on her screen.
Right here.
Yes, and one of the videos that you presented on there was about the things we can control.
Yeah.
And I love the serenity prayer. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change and the wisdom to change the things I can. And
Yes.
so I thought we could just go through a few of those. One, you already just touched on it, which is how we can spend our time.
Yeah. Please limit your television time or radio time. Number 2, move, get exercise. Make sure that your diet is actually healthy and that you're not going down the middle aisles in the grocery stores and just loading up on stuff that's going to make you want to eat more and then get the brain cooking, all the dopamine receptors so that all you can think about is eating more and more and more of sugar, whatever. Limit your drug and alcohol intake. Certainly don't cut it out altogether because a certain amount of calming is very helpful. I have a glass of wine with dinner every night, for sure. But I don't necessarily want to drink so much that I get inebriated because then I can't sleep well. Now, see, that's the next thing. Are you sleeping well? Are you taking care of yourself so that you're getting the best sleep possible? And can you find what's yours to do in this time? Those are all things that we do have under our control. Yeah,
And then also who we connect with or spend our virtual time with.
absolutely. One of the things that's very, very important is to reach for the other people in your world where you can be authentic, where you can actually say, here's how I'm feeling. People who are willing to be authentic, but not go down a rabbit hole of fear or fight, flight, freeze. I can sit with someone who is in fight, flight, freeze themselves. And if I'm grounded enough, I can really help them come join me in a calmer state. They get to a calmer state. But I also have the people in my life that are very nurturing and calming. I do not spend time with people who are off the charts, crazed, or who, for instance, believe there isn't a COVID-19 crisis.
You use the phrase trauma drama.
Right.
in,
Who are lost in the trauma drama of their lives. You
yeah.
got it. You
Yeah,
got it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then the last one, I saved this one for last, is because that's easier said than done sometimes, is our thoughts and our mood.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
our mood more than our thoughts, but our thoughts are within our control. And
Yeah.
so will you talk a little bit about that? And also in that, speak a little bit to disaster scenarios and how, the
Yeah.
tendency for us to go there and how we can control that.
You know, if I find myself thinking about the future and this is who I am, oh my God, this is what's going to happen, I've just left the present moment in that moment. And my books are all about staying in the present moment. So one of the things I do is I call myself back. When I find myself going into a disaster scenario or a fear scenario, or, oh my God, I knew this, I've always known this was going to happen, nothing good ever happened. I catch myself and go, whoa, 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 wait a minute, wait a minute. That's either old material or it's way out there in the future and I've just left the present moment. Then I'm going to do whatever practices I know to do to stay in the present moment. So I might throw my shoes on and go take a walk. I might actually do one of the breath meditations that I have in the calming strategies. I might do a grounding and filling for myself. So my energy reservoir refills, my inner energy reservoir. When my tank is full, I think a lot more clearly than when I'm running on empty. And quite honestly, I'm more likely to do that disaster scenario thing if I am running on empty. I find myself starting to think negatively at the end of the day when what I really need to do is just go get a big hug from Carol. And instead, if he's off doing something, then I might actually end up doing something that isn't as helpful for me and feel more like that negative thinking creeps in.
Yeah.
And, so these are things we can do something about. Some people don't realize they can. Just realizing, oh, I can do something about that. Let me think about what it is. There are audio downloads with both of the books that you all carry that have to do with helping people get back in the present moment. Very simple how to walkthroughs of how to get in the present moment so you can refill your energy reservoir, think more clearly, calmly, and creatively. That's an important piece right now. I mean,
Absolutely. And even that awareness that we're not, I mean, there's a lot of people who haven't even experienced that yet. So just realizing like, whoa, my mind is running off in a disaster scenario and
yeah,
I don't have to go there is really a big first step.
yeah.
Yeah.
So and also one of the pieces I see is if I'm having a conversation with someone, here, go back to number 2, who you spend time with. If I'm having a conversation with someone and they're running off into a trauma drama, that's the point where I have to recognize it. I recognize that I'm losing energy. All of a sudden I'm starting to get, oh my God, how can I get out of this? That's the point where I have to be very transparent and say, I hear you. I can tell that you're afraid, but you going off on this is not helping you or me. Can we just slow this down, drop in together, be present,
Yeah.
shift the scenario
Yeah.
so that you don't get carried away by the trauma drama? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Amen. That's such good advice. And
Woohoo!
it's so I mean, it's just kind of our natural human reaction without the
Yeah,
tools in our toolbox. Like, I think
yeah,
that's where so many people are right now. One thing that you said in one of your videos that I loved, because it reminded me of Burning Man, because Burning Man's all about creative chaos, right? And you said harnessing the chaos and channeling it into what is ours to do in the world is
right,
something
right.
that we can be kind of intending to do and taking action on right now. So will you talk a little bit about that?
Do you know, no one has any doubt that right now the world is in a state of chaos, meaning no one really knows what the death toll is going to be tomorrow, where else the virus is going to show up, what else they're going to show up with in the research about where it comes from or where it can spread to or how it can kill you. All of that stuff is very chaotic and it's out there. There's no doubt about it. And we can either wall ourselves off or we can say, okay, it's out there. I know it's out there. This is the field we're living in. What can I do to ground, to fill myself so that I can take in what I need and listen for what is mine to do? One of the things I realized when all of this started, and I think this was when I emailed you, 6 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, and I realized, whoa, the skill sets that I have, that I've been practicing for 30 odd years, have actually created for me a state of consciousness that I was actually made for these times to be able to help people. Literally, I know what needs to happen in order to stay centered and to stay grounded. And that was really, it was an empowering thing to recognize, to not get bowled under by the disaster scenarios that we were hearing, but to actually go, whoa, I, this isn't something that's going to take me down. I was actually made to rise and help and be of service in these times, which is a very different outlook and reframe than, oh my God, we're all going down.
Right. And I feel like so many New World Library authors, I had that same thought. I mean, we've been
Mhm.
working on this for New World Library has been publishing these books for 40 years. And so
Right,
we've had 40 years and now it's like, really, how does it get integrated? And I
right.
feel like for the first time since I've been doing this work, the 20 years I've been doing it, that the world is going to be ready because it's like everything is slowed down, all of our distractions, and we're just left with that inner voice, our inner voices, our inner
Yep,
world, our inner
yep,
dynamics, and it's beating a lot of people up right now. And so it's like all of our
yep.
wonderful authors who have been teaching it, it's like are going to be able to integrate it in a new way. And there's that, to me, that's the really exciting part of what's happening right now, even though it is a very traumatic birth process for us
Yeah.
collectively.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then you also, I love this because one of my practices that I'm doing is I am taking a nap every day. Like it's one of my rules that I've established for myself. I lay down. Sometimes I sleep for 20 minutes. Sometimes I sleep for an hour and a half. But I'm really giving myself permission to rest. And you talked
Yeah.
about that in your videos about the importance of that
Yeah.
and not beating yourself up for, oh, I should be doing more, and feeling like that you need to be on that old time, kind of matching the energy and the stillness of what's going on in the world right now.
Right. Right. And I think that is a pivotal piece. That's actually one I work on every day because I don't nap every day and I probably should, quite honestly. My system probably needs it. I get really excited and I get running on stuff. And yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
should.
Yeah, I love that. I love the power of rest. And just this week, I feel like I've been feeling this. It's like my energy system is matching the stillness of the world more. Like when I lay in the hammock, I think I just feel like, oh my gosh, this feels good. Like that the
Yeah.
freneticness around me is gone, and I'm starting to feel into that stillness. But it
Yeah.
needs to be a conscious choice sometimes, because otherwise we just are in the habit, I think, of going and going and going.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. Well, I'm keeping these relatively short, so I think we'll close. But before we do, I just wonder if you have any parting words of wisdom or advice or perspective to offer people who might be going through a challenging time right now.
Do you know, I think that what I would want to impart to people or share is that this is actually a time where things are slowing down. And the rhythm of our human system is a slower resonance than what the brain fires at with fight, flight, freeze, and the frenetic nature and the speed that our culture was going at before all this occurred. And so it's a perfect opportunity to slow down and start to listen to your body. And it's a beautiful thing when that occurs. And I watch what has gone on for myself and for Carol across the course of these last 6 weeks, that it feels as though, even though we're busy, there's a slower rhythm that we are getting into. And I love it. I love it. So slow down, start to listen. Listen to the wisdom of your heart. What's yours to do? Listen to your gut. What's right for you? What do you need to move away from? Listen to your pelvis. Are you resting enough that your engine is actually fueled and ready to rock and roll with you? Listen to your feet and legs. Do you need to go out and take a walk and activate whatever you're inspired to do? Listen to your bones. Get into the steadiness and the clarity that comes with the wisdom of our bones. And then all of that informs that wonderful prefrontal cortex so that you can strategize and map make what you came here to do. Whatever is yours to do right now in this time will start to get crystal clear. And when you're that inspired, the fight, flight, freeze, boogeyman gets pushed off to the side, and who you are at a soul level steps in. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much, Suzanne.
You're
I,
welcome.
I really appreciate you being with me. And I encourage all of you to check out Suzanne's SuzanneScurlock.com is the website, and there are 11 videos up there now, and she adds new ones regularly. So
Yep.
definitely check it out. There's meditations you can do to take a lot of the things we talked about today and really ground them in your body. So check that out and take good care out there, everybody.